All right, hey, how's it going? I am trying to take my 12-foot tin boat, which is right about here, and I'm going to see if I can marry the pontoons, sponsons, I don't know what they're called, from my old inflatable kayak and see if I can attach them on the outside of my 12-foot tin boat and make it into kind of a homemade rib and increase the buoyancy, increase the stability a lot, which is really what I want, and not make it look like I had no idea what I'm doing. So stick around, let's see what I can do with this, and maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't, we'll see. Yeah, okay, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but I figured I might as well just start filming it just in case it is. I've got an old Intex Excursion Pro 12-foot kayak inflatable, and I'm thinking about taking the sponsons from the sides of it and mounting them to my little 12-foot tin boat to make it a homemade rib. So I've inflated one. I've got it hooked on just with some C-clamps at the moment just to see if it fits, which it does. So now I'm maybe gonna investigate doing this a little bit more permanent and give it some structure to hold it on the boat. But the length is right and the size is right, and I can do the math to see how much buoyancy it would add. But there's my 12-foot tinny, who's fun to ride in, but it's scary as anything if it gets bumpy, because it feels like it's gonna chuck you right out. So I think with some added flotation, not only will it give me some buoyancy, but it'll also add some mass to the sides to keep it from getting really tippy. And doing it this way gives me a whole lot of buoyancy too, without a whole lot of weight. So I don't know, we'll see if anything happens here. All right, so that's my kayak. It's a 12-foot Intex Excursion Pro. I've had it for a few years. It's been patched once or twice. It's kind of lived its life, and the seats are totally gone. So we have some replacement seats, but they're not that great. So if you're looking at one of these, it did fine for a while, but get a boat, especially if you want to fish. This thing is not really as good as you want it to be. But I think I'm about to hack this apart and make it, there's 3 air chambers. So I'm gonna take them apart into the 3 separate air chambers. It's got these little D-rings on it. They're right here. And there's a few of them down the side. And they're also, these are the ones that are on the inside, which I think are going to become the outside. And there's some on the outside, which I think are gonna become the inside. But anyway, so I should go from a beam, I think it's a 46-inch beam at the top of the boat, but at waterline, it's only about 37 inches. So the boat gets very tippy. In fact, here, the boat gets really tippy when it gets down in the water and there's one person on board. It gets super tippy if there's 2 people on board. However, if the second person, whoever's not driving, is sitting on the middle seat and they stay seated, not a big deal. It's enough steadiness in the center of the boat to keep things relatively safe and secure and not crazy town. But if they stand up, or if the person in the back stands up, the boat starts tipping like crazy, because there's just not a whole lot of boat in the water at that point. So I also sit very low in the back. Water line is maybe about 3 inches off the base of the boat. And at the front of the boat, it's quite a bit out of the water, especially with only one person inside. So I'm gonna see if I can kind of adjust for that as well. Not necessarily with the pontoons from the kayak, but I'm gonna see if I can build a removable deck that's gonna go from the middle seat all the way up to the nose. And I'm gonna build it, I don't intend for that to be a casting deck, just to be really clear. This boat's far too tippy the way it is right now for anybody to stand on one of the seats while the boat's in the water. It'll just immediately throw you out. So maybe with the pontoons on the sides, maybe that gets better, but I don't know that yet, and I'm not gonna worry about that right now. My bigger concern is I want to mount one of my large OtterBox coolers, which are over there by my camper.
And I'm gonna see if I can mount it kind of where the trolling motor is on the boat right now, in between the second and third seat at the front. So right about where I'm pointing right here, I'm gonna see if I can install that cooler in this space. And if I can, the cooler will sit down on the floor of the boat, and I'm going to deck around it so it's kind of built in. And then I'm going to build in, at least these are my plans, I'm going to build in spaces for Play-Doh boxes so that they can just kind of sit down in that deck and not slide around. So they're really easily accessible while I'm fishing. I both fly fish and I spin cast, so I want to be able to kind of trade my baits out, trade my lures out, bring in a fly box, bag, whatever. I'd like to make a place for my net to sit so that it's not in the way all the time, but I can just grab it when I'm fishing, and just make things just more comfortable for myself while I'm out fishing, because that's what this is all about, right? All right, so my first order of business at the moment is going to be to separate out the kayak parts from themselves. So I'm going to get a pair of scissors, which I have here somewhere, and I'm going to cut them apart at the weld seams. There's kind of a panel of rubber in between the bladders, and I'm going to cut right down the center of that rubber weld and see if I can maintain the structural integrity of the pontoons without doing any kind of damage to them. I certainly don't want to poke a hole or anything. I'm relying on them to be able to carry air. So grab some scissors and I'll bring you along for the ride. Fisker scissors. I think they're like craft scissors. They come to a very fine point. They're very, very sharp, which is very nice for stuff like this. They did a nice job, so cool. All right, so my next step is to take my uprights for the trailer off, because they're just gonna be in the way for doing this. So 2 screws, no big deal. Be right back. All right, so just taking this thing off for the time being. I think I'm just gonna drop it. And off to the side, take one bolt out, and take both out. No reason to take both out. Just take the job. Alright, I'm just going to drop it off to the side. Alright, groovy. Alright, so what I've done is I've taken a couple clamps and I'm just going to grab this side and just going to try it out. Nothing special about the clamps. Maybe just one like so. This is just to see what happens when this is off the boat. I might want this further back. This is going to be a good way to kind of play around with it. So the reason being is because I want extra flotation at the rear, because I do run a trolling motor on this, and I'm not exactly a small guy, so having a little bit of extra buoyancy in the back would be good. So maybe these aren't going to be right underneath the seats, but this actually doesn't look totally crazy, so maybe I'm onto something. I've got is, you can see the clamp is just going through this D-ring. It's on the, what was the outside of the pontoon. Same with up at the front. And ultimately what I want to have happen here is to make it so that that curve on the pontoon, starting here and going down, follows the nose of the boat and attaches pretty much just right in there, where that rib, just underneath my my registration number. So it doesn't block the registration number, and it's following the contour of the boat, but not being in the way of my registration number and up and out of the water as I'm underway. So I think this curve right here will make it so that the water just planes off and it cuts through really easily. A lot of things I've seen on YouTube and online and whatever, where people are making these kind of sponsons or pontoons or whatever you really want to call them, they're making them out of PVC tubes, and it looks like they won't cut through the water very well. Like they're going to cause a lot of drag, and I already don't need to increase drag. The boat's actually pretty streamlined since it's so skinny, but that it being so skinny is the reason it's tippy. But I think adding this, I know the kayak cut through the water pretty well, and that logic to me makes it so that this curve should cut through the water just like it was when it was on the kayak. So that's the plan. Okay, so my trial and error continues. I'm going to inflate the other side. And then what I'm going to do is kind of suspend a rope over the top of the boat in a couple spots, just so I can kind of play with the height of where these things sit and see if I can figure out some way to attach them so that they stay steady. I do have it so that the rear end here is sticking out like a, I don't know what you call this. I see them on John boats where they have like a pontoon sponson thing that's off the back, that maybe beaver tail, I think that's what that's called. So I'm thinking that maybe I follow the curve of the nose and have this just trail off to the back, which may give me a little bit of butt lift back here, so that when the trolling motor is on there, it doesn't sit quite so low in the water. So I'm going to inflate the other side, which is what I'm in the middle of doing right now, and sit it over on the other side and see if I can get them to hang from each other and play up and down. So just, there you go. the idea. Yes. With this one, again, I gotta take that trailer guide off on this side. It was a few minutes ago. But have it hang out like so. And with the motor on the back, that'll clear these without any issue, because the motor's going to be sitting right here, so it only swivels in place. It doesn't interfere with these, so I can still drop my wheels and soft launch really easily. Several of the lakes around me don't have ramps, so those work really pretty well for that. And yeah, we're just going to keep going. Helping the view, but you can see I've got it kind of riding the rail of the boat itself. Hope you can see that. And then what I'll do is attach it lower underneath and run the cinches down, so it will really just kind of wrap it around the boat and tell me where I should put pass-throughs, the hull, which I'm scared to death of because that's going to put a hole in the boat. I can get away with these upper pieces being above the water line, so that should not be a big deal, but the lower stuff is going to be below water line, so I'm going to have to, you know, think through that a bit. So if you guys have a suggestion on how to pass through the hull without, you know, creating a hole, let me know. Yeah. So I'm curious, I'm sure other people are too. This is being call that. Seems to have this much on this side. Let's call it 8 inches. I'm going from a 37-inch beam at water to 63, which I would think would make this thing ridiculously stable for being such a small boat. Interesting. And I kind of think that maybe my strapping thing idea here isn't crazy. And what I should be doing is maybe making a strap that goes under the boat that sits flush, clip on, and then make little clamp straps that could just clamp on. Oh. Maybe not a crazy idea. So, if I were to just make it to I had these. And the clip D-ring. Yeah, actually these would work better. Just get some sacrificial. So something like this. this could go over the gunwale. It does quite easily. And with down tension, like here, down tension it with a D-ring, which I'm sure I have 40 or 50 of those sitting around. And then it would just be clamped on the outside and then completely removable when I needed it off the trailer or on the trailer, because it would be in the way for the trailer. So, interesting. Okay, so maybe a new plan for the nose. The kayak had these tip things on the front, the noses. I had 2 of these because there was one on each end. But what they do, and you can probably see down at the other end, is that this matches the drape of the nose of the boat. And running through it, it was, I don't know what you want to call that. It's got a little race, grommets, pass-throughs, tie-downs, I don't know, that are on both sides. And this is what attached to the pontoons in the first place. There's a little ridge that you can't see where you are, but hey, let's go for a field trip. If you look down here, they've got these guys on both ends. So they're up at the nose and they're at the tail, like so. So you can see them just right up here. And I'm wondering if I could use that, pass a rope or paracord or something through there and up through this, around the nose and down to the other side to attach to the other one. And in doing so, make it to where the nose, it keeps the nose up out of the water, which I think might do the job. Because I've been trying to figure out how to kind of attach this without making permanent holes in my boat. But I mean, take a look at that. That actually looks like a rib. I don't think I'm on a crazy path. All right, you get the idea. We'll see.